The conflict in Ukraine is a tragedy for its people and the future of Europe. This brutal conflict is rooted in a complex history marked by unity and division. At its heart lies a fundamental disagreement over Ukraine's identity. Russia views Ukraine as part of its historical sphere, while Ukraine defends its right to self-determination. This clash of visions has fueled tensions for decades, culminating in the current crisis. The conflict has shattered the illusion of lasting peace in Europe. Understanding the historical context is paramount to comprehending the gravity of the crisis. Only by unraveling these complexities can we work towards a just and lasting peace. The Soviet era left an indelible mark on Ukraine's social, political, and economic fabric. Under Soviet rule, Ukraine endured forced collectivization, resulting in widespread famine known as the Holodomor. Beyond economic hardships, Ukraine faced relentless cultural suppression. The Soviet regime sought to replace Ukrainian identity with a Russian-centric worldview, sowing seeds of resentment. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 offered Ukraine a historic opportunity for independence. Despite challenges, Ukraine embarked on democratic reforms, though corruption and political instability persisted. This created fertile ground for external interference. The fall of the Soviet Union ushered in an era of uncertainty for Ukraine. Newly independent, it faced the daunting task of forging its own path. Russia viewed Ukraine's independence with resentment and anxiety. Ukraine's geopolitical orientation became a central point of contention. Russia sought to maintain its influence, viewing Ukraine as a buffer against NATO expansion. The West encouraged Ukraine's democratic aspirations, placing it in a precarious position. Ukraine's economy remained heavily reliant on Russia, particularly in the energy sector. Russia frequently used gas disputes to pressure Ukraine. The Orange Revolution of 2004 exposed deep societal divisions and highlighted the fragility of Ukraine's democratic institutions. The revolution forced a rerun of the election, but underscored the persistent threat of Russian interference. The Orange Revolution failed to usher in the promised era of democratic stability. The years following were marked by political infighting, corruption scandals, and revolving governments. This instability hindered Ukraine's ability to implement reforms, leaving it vulnerable to external pressure. Russia actively sought to undermine Ukraine's pro-European trajectory. The election of Viktor Yanukovych in 2010 marked a turning point, drawing Ukraine closer to Russia. In 2013, Yanukovych suspended preparations for an EU association agreement, triggering mass protests. The Euromaidan revolution was met with a brutal crackdown, shocking the world. The violence further inflamed tensions between Russia and the West. The Euromaidan revolution and Yanukovych's ouster in 2014 created a power vacuum. Russia seized the opportunity to further its geopolitical goals, taking control of Crimea. A hastily organized referendum, widely condemned as illegitimate, provided a veneer of legitimacy for Russia's annexation. The annexation violated international law and set a dangerous precedent. The international community responded with condemnation and sanctions, but these measures proved insufficient. The annexation emboldened Russia, fueling its ambitions in eastern Ukraine. The conflict in eastern Ukraine became a frozen conflict with no end in sight. The conflict in Ukraine has profound implications for the global order. It has shattered the post-Cold War security architecture in Europe. The conflict has led to a reassessment of alliances and strategic priorities. NATO has strengthened its presence in Eastern Europe, reaffirming its commitment to collective defense. The European Union has grappled with its response to Russian aggression. The conflict has exposed the risks of dependence on Russian energy, accelerating efforts to diversify sources. The future of Ukraine remains uncertain, with a devastating toll on its economy and people. Rebuilding Ukraine and achieving peace will require a concerted international effort and addressing the root causes of the conflict.